All right. So today's guest has interviewed over 200 of Silicon Valley's most interesting minds. He is principal at Global Capital Market, specializing in merger and acquisition. He was a former head of AI and blockchain incubator. Before all that, he built a successful business in Beijing, China. He is also the host of the Silicon Valley podcast. Shawn Flynn, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. I have not been at Global for over a year now. I'm now the managing director at Silicon Valley High Point Capital. We're a lower mid market investment bank focused on sell side mergers, acquisitions, growth capital, secondaries. I'm super excited to be here today. And I know this conversation around AI, it's going to be very interesting. I'm looking forward to learning from you gentlemen as well during this conversation.
Thank you so much. So tell us in your own words, how does a guy end up running a business in Beijing, come back to Silicon Valley, and become one of the most connected insiders in the startup world?
Thank you. I don't think I'm one of the most connected. There's so many people out there that I'm on their newsletters. I see all the events that they're organizing. There's so many of these connectors here in Silicon Valley. It's absolutely incredible the resources that they have. But I have tried to build my own network over the years. When I first came back from Beijing, China, I realized I didn't know anyone, like really no one. At that time, Facebook and a lot of these social media platforms, they were blocked in China. So as my peers from college were staying connected and building these huge networks, I lost contact with almost everyone. When I arrived back in the US, I pretty much started off at scratch with my network. And I just realized the value of a network right then because so many people, you'd apply for a job. Oh, do you know anyone at the company that can make an introduction? Do you know anyone over here that could connect you with that person or that? I didn't have a LinkedIn account. I didn't have any of those things at that time. And I just realized, okay, if I want to do anything in Silicon Valley, because it is one of those locations where a lot of your success is who you know. A lot of that success is can that person, do they know, like, and trust you and are open to connecting you with people that they know in whatever industry? And I realized that very quickly. So I really focused, dedicated a lot of time to building out a strong network here. And it's been incredible. But going back to the first part of the question, starting a company in Beijing, China. I lived in China for 5 years. Started a couple companies. One did good. And a lot of that was just pure grit and learning from my failures. The first company, spectacular failure. Second company, spectacular failure. Third company, learned from all the mistakes from the first two. It did good. Exit, came back to the US. So after college, I really wanted to explore. Lived in Costa Rica a bit before China. I lived overseas about 8 years total. And that's a good part about Silicon Valley as well, being here. You're always exploring, you're always learning, you're always seeing the cool new things and what's happening. So for me, at least, I look at it as maybe I'm not traveling as much as I used to, but the adventure is definitely still continuing.
All right, very good. So, Sean, before we get into investing and Silicon Valley, I want to start with something that happened in my family just this week. So, my 16-year-old son got caught using AI by his language teacher, and she made a huge deal out of it, treated it as if like he was cheating.
I was not in the classroom when that was said and done. I'm wondering about the whole context, but I'm hoping, at least I don't have kids at that age at this point, that the school systems are teaching and encouraging them. I mean, maybe it's just the teacher being uncomfortable because maybe the student had already surpassed her AI knowledge.
Yeah.
I could see that being a likely scenario.
Yeah. Generally speaking, I am reading some of these schools' policies and they are barring children from using AI completely. And it is just a one incident I described, but what disturbs me a lot is I was watching some of the news, like in China, for example, and since you are also familiar with that region, in China, schools are encouraging kids to leverage AI. I am also coming from one of the conference right now, and they were telling that what we used to develop, and they were talking about IT in like 6 months, 10 people's team. Now they are saying that deliver in 15 days with one person. So leveraging AI is the number one important skills. And specifically, I'm coming from Southern California, and schools here are barring kids from leveraging AI. And then because of that, kids are also thinking if they are using AI, ChatGPT or Claude, they are using something drastically wrong. So I am not sure where are we going as a nation.
Well, if I can add a little bit, my wife keeps me current with all the teaching in the university. She has dozens of friends, and that's a common problem everywhere. What I see and what I read in, let's say, the Engineers Journal is that the progressive are already teaching AI. I cannot even imagine how they teach without. And it's only a few people who will be, well, sorry to say, it will be rough for them. I'm not an investment banker, so I just say that.
But how is there back in Silicon Valley, Son? Are the schools over there leveraging AI or they're barring students from using it?
I mean, as mentioned, I don't have any kids at that age right now
Yeah.
that are in the school system, but I would hope, considering that their parents are the ones that are making a lot of this AI, that the school systems are encouraging
Exactly.
it to use their parents along with them getting the education at home.
Hmm.
I mean, I would assume that high schoolers are right now playing around with AI agents. I would gather that they're sitting there building apps with Claude on the weekends and experimenting. At least that's what maybe it's just because some parents like to brag about what their kids are doing.
Hmm.
But I've had some conversations where I've been on Zoom calls with investors and they tell me, "I was looking at this one product and then my child said he could use Claude and create it in a weekend." I
Hmm.
have this one of my sons is always has 4 different Claude coding things up at any time doing 4 different apps, and, someone else says, "Hey, my son's got this new company or this trading algorithm that he's been working with 10 different AI agents, one scraping news articles, the other is looking at financials and the value and all these, and you're just listening to them. So I can't see it not being here because, I mean, that's the
Hmm.
only thing that's talked about.
Yeah.
Dinner tables, coffee shops, I can't see it not being implemented once again because also it's the parents that are creating this and they have to see the value for their children and pressuring the schools to also incorporate it. And,
Hmm.
all the parents are asking for something. It'd be hard for the school, especially private ones, to say, "No, we're not gonna have it." I just don't see that happening right now.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but I doubt it.
Yeah. And generally speaking, San Francisco is losing companies to Austin, Miami, and in some cases, Dubai or Abu Dhabi. So, homelessness, sky high cost, political battles. So, do you think is Silicon Valley's dominance actually over, or this narrative is completely overblown?
Well, I'm not sure how many companies were losing in the startup phase. Yes, we're
Hmm.
definitely losing companies as they grow and are established and are looking for better tax treatment, better this, better that, that some of the other states are offering. But for the idea, the coming up with the creation, the improvising, I don't see that being really moved out of Silicon Valley. I still see people coming here to start their ideas, coming here to get that initial funding, growing,
Hmm.
yeah, other places, but that idea to say seed or idea to A round, I'm still thinking that we're the lead. I mean, where else in the country or in the world are you seeing people from Singapore, Philippines, Germany,
Yep.
Uruguay flying over to look for a co-founder or to pitch the idea that they've started there, but, they want the funding here because Silicon Valley has so many resources for growth that many of these
Hmm.
other places don't have. And what I mean by that is just here in the valley, I think there's 42 consulate generals or consulates that have facilities that most of their goals are to help economic expansion from Silicon Valley to their countries. What other cities in the US or other parts of the world have that? What other parts of the world have, you know, pretty much the best public and private university within driving distance? We have universities here in Silicon Valley that are gems that no one talks about. University of Santa
Hmm.
Clara, University of San Francisco State, St. Mary's. The list goes on and on of all the universities here that, if you look at the rankings, they're top ranked, but because of Stanford and Berkeley here, they're overshadowed. And I mean, gosh, the alumni of Stanford and Berkeley are second to none when it comes to building technology companies. And after they build, what do they want to do? They want to advise, mentor, and invest. So that's another thing that when people say Silicon Valley's dying and these other places are growing, which these other places have advisors and mentors that have been building companies in the startup space for 3 decades, 4 decades. It's really just in this area. And that that knowledge, that resource of mistakes that they've gone through that they can help guide the new generation not to make, and that speed of execution and that efficiency of funds to deploy that they can also guide, that's another advantage of this area. So there's a lot of advantages still here that, may not make all the news articles or the headlines, but
Mm.
at the same time, there's a reason why people are still giving up everything to try to make it here in Silicon Valley when it comes to the tech world. Not Hollywood, not movies, not sports world, that, but tech itself, I don't, second place is still a big gap.
Okay. So now
May I
going
ask?
back to, yeah, go ahead,
No,
Mark,
no.
please.
I have a burning question. Shawn, you always give me amazing advice on whatever question I ask, but I never ask about you. What do you do? So, what does an investment banker, what do you do? It's my
Well,
chance to ask you.
it depends who you ask. Some people might say that we don't do anything and accept a lot of money, which is great. But hopefully people listening at least got a snicker from that. But no, we're very involved, and depending on what we do, investment banking itself is such a broad title. There's so many things. Some investment bankers, they work on in the public market. You'll see them on a CNBC or
Yeah.
Bloomberg or that, talking about stocks and talking about the financials and models and where things are moving. And then there's others that focus on oil and gas or commodities or raising bonds for municipalities, or maybe they're I mean, there's such a broad of, we focus on just helping companies go public through a SPAC or reverse merger, or we focus on investing in pipes or getting pipes, private investments, public equity, or the list goes on and on of what all falls under the umbrella of an investment banker. Me, myself, I mean, focus on mergers, acquisitions, growth capital secondaries, and helping those companies throughout the entire transaction. And there's many steps in these transactions. It's not just, here's a company, here's an investor, here's a buyer, and that's it. It's, okay, here's a company. How do you get it ready to present that story to maximize the valuation to the investors or buyers it's looking to connect with? How do you package that? When you're packaging that, are there any yellow or red flags of the company that need to be addressed? Is there anything that, if it was improved slightly, could increase the valuation? Is there anything that it's doing right now that may want to be highlighted because it's a value driver? Or, what does that growth story look like? Is this the right timing to even do one of these types of transactions? Maybe they should wait a little while, or maybe they should accelerate and get this moving as fast as possible. So there's that consultant, that guidance, that, being aware of how the wind's blowing to help move that company along, guide it to one of these transactions and through one of these transactions. Because the transaction itself, it doesn't just stop with the, here's some information on the company and that's it. Here's this information on the company. Okay, let's answer any questions you have. Now let's bring in other competition to drive up the bidding war. And what comments or critiques does this person have or that person, and how to prepare the founders of the team to answer those, and that dialogue, that interaction. And how do we compare these offer letters or these LOIs to one another? And how do we keep moving things forward through the definitive, due diligence to the definitive documents, firmary due diligence to definitive documents? And how do we button everything up? And have we packaged this with the idea in mind of the owners, of the founders, with what they want? And have we structured the deal for what the founders, the owners, the investors, what they want? Are both sides, there's so many parts to these transactions, and we're the ones that run it, guide it, get it through from start to finish. But once again, the term investment banker, it's so broad. And in Silicon Valley, it's really funny because here everyone knows what a VC does. No one knows what an investment banker does. But if this was New York or East Coast, it'd be the exact opposite. They'd be like, "What's a VC?" So it's
Mm,
pretty hilarious when trying to explain what I do to entrepreneurs, to investors, and giving them that value prop of why private equity, why these huge public companies, why everyone uses investment bankers for their transactions, and why the lower middle market, mid market companies should as well here.
and how AI is changing it?
It gives the opportunity to take market share from the groups that don't use AI. That's a that's a
That's
huge
so
thing right
great.
now. Remember, a lot of what I said right there are their processes, their systems, and a lot of it is
Hmm,
matching.
hmm,
How do we take this information in the data room and put it in a story? Well, AI does a great job of parsing through all that information, thousands of documents, and really pulling those highlights. Okay, right now, those highlights, which ones in the current market are the big value drivers? Great job going through the market, collecting data, parceling through that. Here's areas that are being talked about more now than in the past. Great. We got information on the company, we got information on the market. All right, who should we talk to? Wow, it's scraping everything, analyzing everything in real time. You might have a CRM, half your contacts are outdated. Well, now you have everything updated. Now you have the latest on this fund that just raised or this group that just raised a new fund, this group that just acquired a platform that might be a good fit for your company to be an add-on. You're gathering all this information, not manually, but through AI. Then at training, I mean, one of the things I really like to do is I will take this information from a company and I'll just create a podcast on Notebook LM, and I'll listen to that podcast while I'm walking. It's just coaching me, guiding me on that company. So instead of me sitting there reading documents, now I have a fun, entertaining podcast to listen to about why this company differentiates itself, the current market, all this stuff compiled into one podcast. And that's a
hmm,
great utilization for me of AI. And then also with the client, how do we get the client prepped for management meetings? All right, let's put in a bunch of questions and have the AI feed it to the to the founder. Okay, now it's just every step of the process from doing the financial
yeah.
models on it can be accelerated, can be helped, complemented by using AI and just the speed. Here's another
Hmm,
example. It's a simple example, but I like to give. In the past, when you were creating the SIM, the confidential information memorandum, think of it as a very large pitch deck. I know most
yeah.
listeners here are more familiar with that. We would go through it and we're great with word story and that, but you want to bring in that designer to make it really look good the very end. And so you'd send it out to a designer. They would add the, touches, the pictures, and then they would send it back. And then you would make comments and go, slide 5, the picture of this, we would prefer something along this. You send it back, wait a few days, get the next draft. Maybe it's there, maybe it's close, or maybe if each iteration is
Hmm,
say 3 days that way, 2 days this way, 3 days that way, 3 or 4
yeah.
iterations later, it's 2 weeks, and you're like, "Oh, right, we finally got it. We're looking good. We're ready to show it to the client." Well, now with AI, you're just sitting there tweaking it yourself,
Hmm,
typing in the description, and maybe you get the picture like 80% there, but then you only need that one iteration with the designers. "Hey, I got it this here. I would like this color, this, and this changed to this little bit." And then the next draft you get back, instead of back and forth 3, 4 times, it's okay, they got it. And right there, that's such a simple thing, but such a meaningful impact. Time is money. If you could save a week and a half, just something so simple right there, it's a big difference for using AI versus a group that doesn't use AI and still going the antiquated, let's keep going back and forth, back and forth. Imagine
yeah.
whole process, how much quicker it can be done. Imagine how many more deals you can work on by utilizing AI. Imagine how each new deal you're doing, how much additional revenue can be brought into the bank, and also how much happier your client is because
Hmm,
they see the movement, they see the speed. They're not waiting around. You're always giving them approve this, approve that. versus,
Hmm.
yes, we're going to get the next draft to you to look at in a few days.
Yeah.
So it just helps out so much. So that's how AI is really disrupting the investment banking world. And you, such as ourselves, that are really utilizing it, I see taking market share from the others that are saying, no, we've done it this way for 30 years, and we're going to do it this way for the next 30 years. It just, maybe that's the teacher in the classroom and we're the student getting in
Yeah.
trouble using AI, but that's the scenario.
Yeah. No, exactly. And that brings to my next question, Sean. So every investors that we talk, they say that AI will create more jobs than it destroys. So what is your take on that and how that will happen then?
Great question. I could see that happening. I'm not an expert in AI. I do think there's going to be a huge shift in AI or a huge shift in the job market because of AI. I see a lot more opportunities in some areas. I see robotics taking off. I see, how do I say this? I see people that are creative having opportunities to create what they weren't able to create before. I mean, there's so many creative people out there that can't code. And because of that, it always said, well, I can't start this startup. I can't build this idea because I don't have a technical co-founder. But I know this idea is spectacular. Well, now that technical co-founder, a lot of that could be AI, and now it's opening up doors for these people that weren't able to do something before in that. I also see just technology in general helping the masses. This reminds me of an event I got to speak at about 2.5 years ago. The event was held, maybe it was 3.5 at this point, 4. It was during the pandemic. It was a group in Trinidad and Tobago talking about technology and entrepreneurism and the ecosystem. And the people there, Trinidad and Tobago's in the Caribbean, it's a small country. They were talking about how challenging it is to do anything entrepreneur. They have all
Hmm.
these great artisans and all these people there that create these amazing things, but no one knows about it, or they have no access to customers. And I just made the comment, well, does everyone there have access to Instagram? Like, yes. Like, well, now you have access to the entire world that's on Instagram. So the idea that you're on this in this small country is that's just a mindset that's a limiting blocker because I'm sure there's people there right now in the country that are selling their products, their clothing, their goods or whatever to people all around the world.
Hmm.
And that's gonna happen with AI with creativity. It's okay, you are now gonna be able to create almost anything you could imagine and have that plus social media, you have distribution channels, everything, and the AI will probably teach you or tell you how to distribute, sell it, guide it, license it, whatever. Hopefully that's the case. But we'll see. I mean, we're gonna see in the coming years what is gonna happen. I'm just excited myself to be able to
Yeah.
use AI as a complement to my business so I can
Hmm.
focus on more what I want, and that is one-on-one relationships with the client. I'm not the biggest fan of looking through legal documents and seeing if they were signed or looking through financial models for an entire day. I'd rather have AI give me feedback if something's missing or unusual, me look at it myself, think of how to talk to the client about that, have that relationship, and then go back. That is more value of my time than scrolling through a 60-page tedious document where I fall asleep halfway through and wish I was doing anything else.
Yeah. So, generally speaking, currently, if I look at the global view, Europe is regulating AI very heavily. In US, we are still kind of debating it. But if you look at the China, which is moving ahead with almost no guardrails, at least that's how we are perceiving over here. So, do you think that Western regulators are about to accidentally hand over China the AI crown?
Great question. I'm not sure because, I mean, I have no idea. I'm not the AI expert. I love to defer to you gentlemen about this. I mean, who's ahead in the AI race? Because if you're behind, get rid of all the regulations so you can copy and move forward and try to surpass. But once you've surpassed, are you creative enough to come up with the next solutions and next steps? It's easy to go through a forest when the path has already been cut and paved for you. It's very hard to navigate through the forest when you're the one leading. So I am kind of curious the situation of everyone. When it comes to rules and regulations, I mean that's kind of, I mean I don't do much. I don't, yeah, I don't really do anything in the government, but at the same time when you have guidelines, at least you know the boundaries. And companies are smart enough, entrepreneurs are smart enough to play within those boundaries, wiggle around those, whatever's needed. Or if there's no guidelines, there's no boundaries. At the same time, you're always on defense because you don't know if suddenly something's going to appear. I mean, with that being said, I mean, I really see China and the US in the AI race. I don't know too much about Europe. Maybe that gets tagged on to the US, but at least when it comes to ideas and innovation, still, I mean, another good part about the US is our knowledge pool is everyone in the world. It's not just one country and the people that live in that country. Everyone comes to the US to build and create. So that's, what, 6 times the number of people, the number of ideas to pull from. So I see US, I'm bullish on the AI here. And, plus Silicon Valley and just the history of innovation and that. So I don't know if that answered your question. To be determined, I guess.
Oh, no, yeah, no, absolutely. It gives at least some direction. More so because DeepSeek recently launched and it is matching at least with GPT-4. It's earlier China used to be like 6 months behind. Now they are saying almost 3 to 4 months behind. And then the kind of token or the cost per token is pretty low compared to GPT 5.5 and all that. I always keep wondering this is because of regulations or this is because of something else that Chinese models are becoming cheaper and cheaper and they are just bridging the gap when it comes to racing with the US model. So yeah, you answer it at least directionally. It gives me a lot of clarity, I would say. Yeah. Mark, anything from your side?
Yeah, I wonder, is that really noticeable that the Chinese models are becoming cheaper and cheaper? As a developer, we all know what I'm using, the ChatGPT, and I don't see a big problem with it. Is that really a factor that the Chinese models are cheaper? Or is it because the Chinese population is just all over about AI? So how do you view who is ahead? Is it the users who is ahead or is it the producers?
That's a good question. I defer to the AI expert.
Yeah, I mean, what I was thinking is I'm working on this architecturing this AI solution, and more clients are now focusing on cost as well. Earlier, it is more of like they want to do whatever they want, use whatever model they don't care. But now they are saying that the cost also plays the important part. So to answer your question, they are saying that, for example, if you are doing something very complex task, like writing something inside the Word document and then opening the browser and then it goes browser line by line and finds out something, that kind of complex task, they are saying that that's fine if you can leverage costly model like Opus or GPT 5.5. But when it comes to like smaller tasks, like gathering the information, or I mean, smaller complex tasks, gathering the information from the internet and then doing consolidation, doing some basic analytics, use DeepSeek or use any other cheaper model, use Llama, right? So that is the ask. So what I'm trying to tell is whether the model is good or bad is, I would say good or bad is more or less like value as pursued. In my case, the clients, how they pursue the values in the model. So I cannot leverage Opus 4.7 to do very simple tasks. Opus 7, 4.7 is great to orchestrate the task. But then when it comes to simple tasks, I would leverage cheaper models. So that's how I would define good and bad. But in terms of evaluating the model, they're having certain parameters like the maths, analysis, humanities, last index, those kind of parameters. And they evaluate all the models against those parameters. And then they come up with some number, and based on that number they evaluate, so they don't consider the cost or any specific task for that matters.
So that's like humans. You don't hire a very expensive lawyer if you have a very simple task.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a lot like humans. And then I have a question that is maybe obvious, but it bugs me a lot. So even today in my webinar, I ask, oh, maybe web builders, okay, maybe we're a lot. But what about the common humanity that is not on the level of Shawn, not on the level of Ashish, but not sure what to do in the future? One of the answers, yeah, it will be rough for them. The other answer that I suggested was that Well, just because I sympathize with the common humanity doesn't mean that I myself should be on that level and stop learning and not doing anything interesting. Nobody wanted that. So, Buddhist point of view, what about humanity?
Could you repeat that last part again?
What will be with humanity?
What will
Those
be
who
with
are
humans?
not builders, those who don't know what to do.
Oh, they get to hang out in the virtual world and play.
Play games?
Well, no, I mean, really, I look at it as so I was just at a private equity conference this last week, and I was asking, and normally, if this was 2 years ago, half the conversations would be around SaaS software. And we're looking for companies that are doing whatever, 20 million in revenue, 2 million in EBITDA to be an add-on to this platform. This platform's doing 50 million in revenue. That was the conversation I was hearing over and over. Or we're looking for vertically integrated SaaS that is the list US based, the critical SaaS software. Those are the buzzwords. This last time when I was there, and I just got back the other day, the conversations were we're looking for roofing, we're looking for commercial door repair, we're looking for those companies that put the cones on the freeway because there's all these rules and regulations about when construction's done. We're looking for that aren't that won't be disrupted tomorrow by AI, but then later we can implement robotics or these other things to increase the margins. And these are all these industries that people are just still using pen and paper to run operations on. And so, maybe your job gets replaced by AI over here, but then you get this opportunity to maybe be an elevator repairman or something like that, more physical labor. Or maybe you could become, oh, there's other things in life outside of just coding that maybe you are more encouraged to do because of the current work environment. How many people pick the profession of being a software engineer just because they thought it would make them a lot of money and they get a job? Or in the future, maybe it's, hey, how many people are golf cart repairmen because they thought it would make them a lot of money and they would be guaranteed a job? Who knows? Things change quite a bit, but I think it will be nice to be less in front of the computer, more outside in nature. But yeah, I just maybe just people have to learn every 3 to 5 years. There's going to be new career opportunities to adapt and change versus that one profession your whole life. But I would always keep learning. I mean, I think the people that are adaptable, that ask questions, going back to very early, what happened in that classroom. If you can ask questions, if you're always learning, if you're adaptable, you're going to have so many tools and resources to help you implement whatever you want to do. You're going
Become
to
a
be at
better
such
teacher.
a competitive
Right.
advantage.
So
Yeah.
the way I understand you is that humanity will find what to do online, in the real life. I shouldn't worry about humanity. That is, I think, what I should get out of your answer.
I
And
think
if
there's
the
always going to be
people are
opportunities for the
creative,
people that seek opportunities.
exactly. Yeah, if they're creative, they will do something. If not, they will kill the time and another one.
Right. But I think real challenge comes when you are a dad of teens right now, right? So if a 16-year-old came to you today and said that I want to be relevant and financially successful in 20 years, now should you advise them to go to university? Should you advise them to learn something? Ask them to become plumber? What should you do? Because that time slice is very limited. So that is the real challenge.
I mean, I guess something like that, 20 years, such a time frame that I really don't think even AI could predict what 20 years
Yeah.
from now would be like. I would just maybe go back a step and go, okay, what do you consider wealth and success? Because that changes so much in life. I mean, when we were young, what was success like then? Oh, one day I'm going to be an NBA basketball player or a movie star or a billionaire. To me, success right now is 7 hours of sleep. If I can get 7 hours of sleep, I'd be the richest man in the world in my mind. So maybe having that conversation with that person that's going through school, going, okay, let's really look at what success is for you and then work backwards from there. What's a balanced life? I think that's going to be a little bit more important in the future as things keep changing. The stress and that's going to be on people, having outlets, connections. I think there's going to be a lot of different views of success in the future, and maybe having those conversations now of, hey, there's going to be a lot of ups and downs in life. A lot. It's always happened in the past, but maybe these up and downs are higher highs and lower lows and more impactful. just because changes are going to be happening so quickly. And maybe it will be less on that degree and more on just mental health and mental strength. Maybe that will be a
Mm.
course in school, and resilience and grit, and teaching leadership and all these kind of interpersonal and soft skills maybe get more attention than what have had in the past. I mean, just think of the changes as mentioned. We're looking at how do we take market share from other investment banks that don't use AI. Imagine what's happening. All these huge businesses right now that understand if they don't incorporate these tools and resources, someone else will. And just that disruption in all these places. I can't see it being a calm moment in anyone. And then add that to just the stress of life. So I think there's going to be a lot of focuses. I think focuses are going to change quite a bit in the future of how things are taught, how people believe things are going well or not, mental wellness
Yeah.
break, just going on and on. I don't know.
Yeah. Largely, they are blown away by some data like these universities, these many people became CEO of these many companies, and that kind of data, they are completely blown away. But I'm not sure whether that those data are relevant now since we are experiencing all this singularity right now. But let's see. No, perfect. Thank you so much, Sean. I know we are on the top of our, so this has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you for being so direct and honest, and hope to invite you soon again after 6 months if things are changing, and that time we will again evaluate everything else.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed the conversation. I look forward to continuing it.
All right. Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank
Bye.
you.